When someone's declared legally dead today or clinically dead, what that really means is doctors can't help the person anymore, but they're not truly dead. Almost everything is still alive, which is why we can donate organs. So what we're saying is don't give up on the person, turn them over to us, we're going to protect the cells and we're going to store the patient at extremely cold temperatures where they can have a chance of being revived in the future with more advanced technology. I think it's kind of like asking someone in 1900, will it be possible to put someone on the moon? Well, a lot of people said, well, no, that's just science fiction. If you think about it, about 50 or 60 years ago, if you had a heart attack, you stopped breathing, people would check your vitals and say, oh, you're dead, that was it, we gave up on you. Today we don't do that. We'll jump on you and do CPR, defibrillation, and usually resuscitate the person. Cryonics is really an extension of emergency medicine. Ideally, we want to have advance warning and have a team at the bedside so we can begin with no delay whatsoever. Once a doctor has declared legal death, and we have to wait for that point currently, we can begin the procedure by lifting the patient from the bed into our ice bath. We're going to cover them with ice and add water and circulate the icy water around the patient to accelerate the cooling. We're also going to restart respiration and circulation. The reason is we have to get a number of different medications into the patient to protect the cells. At this point, it's very much like donating organs. We're trying to keep the tissues viable for as long as possible until we can begin the next part of the procedure. We're going to open up the chest, access the major blood vessels of the heart, and then connect them to our pump and chiller system here. The cryoprotectant is basically a medical grade antifreeze, if you like. As we go below freezing, then instead of ice crystals forming, the fluid we use will just become thicker and thicker and basically just hold all the cells in place without any damage. About half our members choose not to preserve the whole body, myself included. We're just going to preserve our brain. Unless I die early in an accident, by the time I need this, my body's going to be in pretty bad shape anyway, and the whole thing's going to have to be regenerated. So the process is very much the same as for a whole body patient, except that instead of the whole body, obviously, we're going to do a separation, a few vertebrae down the neck, and then we're going to take the cephalon, the brain plus the skull, put it upside down in the neuro ring, and then we're going to use the carotid blood vessels here instead. And if we do a good job, we hope to see something like this. What you can see here is the brain is actually shrunk because we've taken a lot of water out of it, and there is no ice inside the brain at all. So this one is a very good brain, but they don't all look that good. This one, for instance, is not so good. The brain is not contracted, so we can't guarantee that everybody's going to have a perfect cryopreservation. Many of our members will say, just do the best you can with whatever you find. Well, the worst cases really are either cases where we're not notified until a long time after legal death, or cases where an autopsy is required, a full autopsy, where the brain is actually removed from the head and is sliced into pieces. If necessary, we will do what we call a straight freeze, where there'll be no protection of the cells, but even so, it may not be impossible to fix that in the future. And if you think about it, there are actually millions of people walking around the world today who were cryopreserved. They were just embryos at the time. We can do skin, we can do corneas, we can do heart valves, we can do eggs and sperm. There are many tissues we can cryopreserve reversibly, but going from that to a whole organ is right on the edge of possibility today. So it's really a matter of extending those achievements over time. Once we finish in the operating room, we wrap the patient in a sleeping bag and then secure them inside these aluminum pods. And so they're protected against any kind of motion. So there's 4 whole body patients, plus we can also get up to 5 neuro patients in the center column there. These vessels, they're basically very large, expensive thermos flasks. A lot of people say, what happens if the power goes out? The answer is absolutely nothing, because no energy is needed to maintain the temperature. We just refill with liquid nitrogen once a week, and so really just by refilling the liquid, we keep the temperature low. And you might say, that's a lot of money, but in fact, most of our members, over 90%, pay using life insurance. Our membership is pretty varied, but I think there are a few things that they tend to have in common. First of all, they tend to be pretty highly educated, and that's because it takes a bit of knowledge to understand the process. But I think actually more important than that is a sense of adventure, because we're asking people, basically it's a gigantic experiment, right? If it works, you're going to come back in the future decades from now, maybe a century from now, and things will be very different. And most people, when they think of that, oh my goodness, that's terrifying, I don't want to do that. I think really it's a bet on advancing technology. We are actually funding some research into nanomedicine, which is certainly going to be very relevant to bringing people back. And then of course there's the whole area of tissue regeneration. We're starting to grow organs in the lab for people who can't get a good organ match. We live longer than people in previous generations, but why should we give up just because our body quits at some point? Why don't we get to choose that? I absolutely do believe that we're going to beat death.